Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. I'm very excited to have you on my channel, so don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is story time, or the day of our chapter exchange. I give you a chapter, you give me a chapter. If you're writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then send your chapter with written permission to writewithmichaela@gmail.com. And I need the written permission to read it on the channel. If you don't give written permission, then I will not read it. I will post the email address at the end of the video and in the description below. I am looking so forward to reading your chapters. All chapters are writing prompts read on the channel, whether they are mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. This story is PG-13. If you're under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance when you send in your story. If yours is PG-13 or PG-17 or whatever, please list that as well. If not, then I will have to kind of gauge it when I pre-read it before I read it on the channel. This story is in its rough draft stage, just as the last stories and the writing prompts we've heard. The title of this story is Princess Emnorawyn Stygerguard, and today we are reading chapter 33. If you would like to read along, then send to the email I stated earlier and request a PDF of the chapter. Make sure you are specific. Now let's start. Princess Emnorawyn Stygerguard, chapter 33. What's next? Several soldiers posted watch, but others that belonged to Tal's kingdom actually started some of the cleanup. They knew they couldn't build yet, or they couldn't rebuild yet, and maybe they never could, but cleaning up was better than waiting for the next battle. The tower where King Rhymes normally held his meetings seemed to be intact, but no one wanted to be so far away from the dragons to be able to leave, so the three kings sat in the dining hall. Commander Offerton was used to giving reports, so he stood before the table where the scout had stood a few weeks ago, and he gave his report. Prince Hadley was next. He told of the cold and the fear he felt, and how it was different than that when they had visited King Zargarmon's refuge. The kings understood that it was something more than normal and natural fear. Prince Hadley said, "I think the voices in the pit have been convinced that they have something very good, and they wanted us to join them. He paused and sighed. "When we visited King Zargarmon's, we needed a rope to climb down on the outside of the wall, so I brought a rope. I was not sure if I would need it or something else. And I know I can't bring every possible thing I will need. But we found a place to tie the rope, and we had the princess put us back in the ball as soon as we tossed the rope toward the pit. So we don't know what happened. I was scared to stay. I didn't know if the air could climb out and drag us in. Even as ridiculous as that sounds, that was my fear." Prince Hadley stepped back in line with the other two. Princess Emnorawyn held her magic ball in her hand. She stepped forward. She told them how she had released several magic balls to keep watch and give them warning if the enemy was going to trap them. And these were not the magical balls that was to pick up the metal ball. Princess Emnorawyn closed her eyes to see the scenes that her magic was offering her. Sizemore felt he knew what she was doing. "I don't mean to interrupt you," he started. Princess Emnorawyn opened her eyes and looked at him. He continued, "Can you display the pictures for us?" Princess Emnorawyn slightly nodded her head. Actually, she was glad to share the pictures because it seemed too much to describe. The magic erupted up from her, and no matter who was looking at the pictures, they saw it as if they had been the magical ball near the ceiling of the chamber on the side near the entrance tunnel. They saw the rope sling up and the three seemingly disappear. They briefly saw a golden ball, but that faded. Then the end of the rope landed in the pit, and the blue air grabbed it and climbed it. They felt like they could make out hands and arms and bodies and heads. After several were out, they ran through the tunnel and down the hall. But one body of air untied the rope and let the remaining blue air pull it down in the pit. The whole cavern shook. The view then changed to following the escaped blue air that ran down the hall. It seemed they were following a trail. King Rhymes whispered to his father if they could have her slow it down. Sizemore didn't take his eyes off the scenes, and he whispered in return that he felt with practice Emnorawyn could learn to do that. They were unprepared for what they saw next. The blue air went to different cells and reunited with gaunt bodies, and though many bodies were sitting up, it seemed as though they woke up when the blue light entered them. The magic stayed near the ceiling, but it floated along across the cells, and the people without blue air entering them seemed like hollow shells. The scene stopped. King Trufflemore slammed his hands down on the table as he rose up. "Not hungry?" he yelled. "They were not fed." He glanced around and sat back down. "Sorry," he apologized. "Some of those people were mine. I mean, they were from my kingdom." Put his face in his hands. Silence fell on the room. King Rhymes realized that if they doubted loyalty before, they couldn't doubt it now. King Trufflemore had his own reasons to help them. King Trufflemore raised his head up. "We have to stop this. King Cronus can't use people like this." Princess Emnorawyn then softly told the story of helping a lion man bury his mother and what he had said of the threats of King Zargarman throwing him in the pit if he didn't obey. "I'm sorry to interrupt," started Prince Hadley. "You said the kings on the field had hair and skin and air from the kings. He closed his eyes. "Oh, I hope not." He opened his eyes. "These mudmen that we are fighting, do they have hair and skin and air from..." He pointed to where the pictures had been. "From those people?" The kings closed their eyes and shook their heads. They didn't know. After a few minutes, Sizemore said, "Even if they agreed to it, King Cronus has trapped them. We have to fight them as if they are the monsters they are. The monsters we see. We had to fight them as if they are the monsters we see." He paused and motioned to Commander Offerton. "Even the ones bearing his face. We have to fight them. Otherwise, we will never breach the fortress and free them. I say death is probably preferable to their current condition. The Great Spirit did not make us to live while separated from our bodies. That is what death is. When your air leaves your body, you are dead." Prince Hadley stepped beside Princess Emnorawyn and raised his hands to his shoulders. "I do not want to return inside that fortress, and I certainly don't want to risk the princess." He looked at Sizemore. "You know more, so I'm asking you. Could she send in her magic with a rope, a real rope, and ask the magic to tie it and toss it like we did? Maybe send the magic with 10 ropes or a dozen ropes." He lowered his hand and stepped back into place. Sizemore put his hand on his chin. "That's an idea, but the magic ball or the magic contained in the ball could not just stay and keep tying new ropes. It would eventually be discovered." He thought a few minutes, and then he held up. "I say she first sends the magic with rope and instructs the other two kings first. The rope and instructions to the other two kings first. Maybe... Well, perhaps I'm too hopeful." King Rhymes looked at his father. "You hoped the animal people would help us." But if they just leave, that would be great. Why would they stay loyal after their king threw them in a pit like that? King Krante looked at his son. You originally wanted to try to talk to the animal people. I think this is the better option. They continued discussing things. One thing they felt was that there was definitely an nearly infinite amount of mud for King Cronus and the other kings to use to make the mudmen. But if King Cronus had to have skin and hair and air from people, it would be more limited. But they were not sure the notes had read that way. The other thing was once the air returned with the body, or within the body, could King Cronus convince the person to send his or her air back to the pit? They even discussed the possibility of King Cronus promising to release the prisoner from prison if they gave their air. None of them were sure what would happen. If airless people left the kingdom, but they felt it might be something King Cronus could hold over them to make them agree to giving back their air to him. I'm not sure that sentence read very well. None of them were sure what would happen if airless people left the kingdom, but they felt it might be something King Cronus could hold over them to make them agree to giving back their air to him. They each had their information, but none had their war advisors or their prophets. So King Rhymes' group and King Cronte's group flew to the refuges, and King Trophilmore's group flew over the ridge to his kingdom. Well, only King Rhymes had Princess Emnorawyn to show the pictures. The rest had to describe things the best they could. But several felt they didn't want to see the pictures. They didn't want to re-see the pictures. Once had been enough. Princess Emnorawyn went to Kalaisha to see how she was progressing, and Kalaisha was excited to show her some of the things she had done. Kalaisha had made many of the traps the artist had drawn, and she trapped her twin brothers in them. Then she watched them get out over and over again. Kalaisha told the artist what was wrong with the trap or the downfall of it. Several times some soldiers got involved with suggestions. Kalaisha's twin brothers thought it was a magnificent game and laughed a lot each time they got out. Kalaisha told Princess Emnorawyn that she didn't mind her brothers getting out, and in a way she hoped they could in case the enemy ever captured them, but she didn't want the gorilla man to get out. Princess Emnorawyn set her down and told her about the lion man that wanted to bury his mother, and that perhaps the animal people weren't as bad inside as they were scary outside. Kalaisha still didn't want them getting out of the traps. Princess Emnorawyn watched as Kalaisha trapped her brothers in different traps, and indeed they laughed and laughed when they got out. Princess Emnorawyn told Kalaisha that she needed to talk to the brothers without her hearing. So Kalaisha agreed. Princess Emnorawyn told the boys that they needed to get out of the trap and out of the chamber they were currently in without someone noticing them. Two little boys nodded their heads as if they knew this was serious. Kalaisha came back in and trapped them. At first, they didn't even seem like they were going to try to get out. Kalaisha chided them for a bit, and then she sat down near Princess Emnorawyn. Maybe we've improved the trap so much, she motioned to the boys. They're not even trying to get out. Princess Emnorawyn was at an angle where she could still see them, but she started Kalaisha's lesson. Kalaisha was involved in the lesson and did see the boys get out, and they got out rather easily and without noise. Princess Emnorawyn thought part of it was that they were so small, but she continued teaching. Kalaisha heard laughing down the hall. She looked up. She jumped up and looked at the cages, and then she raced down the halls. The boys were laughing hysterically when she brought them back in the chamber. They had found a new game. After her session with Kalaisha, Princess Emnorawyn went to the locksmith. She asked him about keys to the dungeon and if different locks needed different keys. He explained to her that, yes, different locks could use different keys, like what some families placed on their front doors to their homes, but there were but there could also be a master key. He explained that he often kept a master key in case someone locked themselves out of their home or a guard lost a key to a cell. Princess Emnorawyn asked if he could open a lock without a key. He brought her to his work area and started teaching her like he had taught his son about the different parts of a lock and how the different keys worked. After he showed her everything, he had his son show her how to unlock a few locks that he had installed around the chamber, and the son successfully unlocked them all. The son explained what he was looking for and how he did it. The locksmith rechecked them and relocked them and handed Princess Emnorawyn the little pick tools. Princess Emnorawyn tried and was unsuccessful. The son encouraged her to try again. After a while, King Rhymes found her and asked her what she was doing. Princess Emnorawyn explained, "Father, we saw the blue air return to people in cells. I don't know if I can have my magic get the keys or not," she motioned to the locksmith, "or if I can get the master key. And I know I don't want to do some things magically, like no magic rope." The locksmith held up his hands. "I didn't know anything about blue air or people in prisons." "And don't worry, Mr. Smith. My daughter is already trying to learn to do some of what the advisors have thought about," replied King Rhymes. He turned to Princess Emnorawyn. "Were you successful?" Princess Emnorawyn shook her head. "No, I wasn't." "She was almost successful," said the son, as his father tried to quiet him. The son glanced at his father. Then he said to the king, "Let me show her on one of the locks on the table." King Rhymes motioned for the son to do as he said. The son took the tools and showed Princess Emnorawyn what to do and what to feel for, and he showed her what mechanism clicked the lock open. Princess Emnorawyn tried all the different things the son showed her to get a feel for things, because she couldn't see inside the locks on the fake doors in the chambers. She tried the first one, and she started to understand all the different pressure points. She succeeded in unlocking the lock. King Rhymes looked at the locksmith and said, "Are all locks made the same? Could this technique work in Jor's kingdom?" Mr. Smith rubbed his chin and thought a minute. "It should, as far as I know. These are the elements to a lock. The elements are just in slightly different places in different locks." King Rhymes said to Princess Emnorawyn, "Think with Prince Hadley and see if they have locks in their refuge. If they do, you can go there and try. If not, maybe several of us can meet some of King Cronte's people in their kingdom, and you can try there." They ended up meeting in Jor's kingdom, and Princess Emnorawyn was successful in opening the cell doors to their empty prisons. King Rhymes still wasn't convinced because he knew he and his ally shared many things, so he had Princess Emnorawyn think with Princess Ezeri. The whole group then flew from Jor's to Kalkist Kingdom, and Princess Emnorawyn had more difficulty, but she was still successful. King Trufflemore then had Princess Emnorawyn go to the secret area. This area has older locks, and my locksmith doesn't build locks the same way anymore. Princess Emnorawyn walked down the hall with the prophet that had retrieved the book before, and he showed her to a door that held nothing. Princess Emnorawyn poked in the prick tools several different ways, trying to feel things, like the son taught her. But the lock would not click open. The prophet showed her which key was supposed to open the door, but she admitted that didn't help her. The prophet tried the key, and the door didn't unlock for him. Maybe this one is rusted shut. Let's try the one I opened recently. Princess Emnorawyn was nervous. She didn't want to come in contact with the book again, but she dutifully tried to pick the lock, and the lock reluctantly clicked open. The prophet sensed her unease, and he quickly pulled the door to and relocked it. They walked back to the small chamber, and the prophet reported things. King Trufflemore said, "Well, we are hoping the cells are not rusted shut, and we are glad the method works. But still, for me, there is a question of who is to unlock these cell doors. King Rhymes pulled out a chair and sat down. That is a great question, because I don't want Emnorawyn to do it, and I don't think her magic should do it. I agree, said Sizemore and King Cronte at the same time. The Lion Man, said Princess Emnorawyn. Maybe he will go to King Zagarman's place. That's where you want to go first? Asked King Crowfamore. I guess that makes sense. But the Lion Man is free, stated Prince Hadley. Why would he want to go back? And that's not mentioning, started Commander Offerton. That's not mentioning teaching an enemy something we may not want him to know. They looked around the circle, and no one said anything for a few minutes. King Crowfamore told them they could move their discussion to a larger, more comfortable area, and since it was getting late, they were welcome to stay. King Rhymes and King Cronte appreciated the offer, but said they didn't want to stay away until they knew the plans of their enemy, or they defeated their enemy. The two groups left and went to their refuges. They had a lot to think about. Okay, writers, that is the end of chapter 33. We have 38 chapters in this story, so leave a comment on if you have ever tried to pick a lock or hotwire a car. There used to be certain locks I could get past with a wire or credit card, but I didn't pick the lock with little tools. I put the card or the wire in on the side where it bent in, so it depended on which way the bolt or latch faced. Like if it had that curved area, some of the inner doors to your house have that curved area. You can you slide the credit card down, or you slide a wire down, and you can pull, and it'll slide down the curved area. You can't put it on the flat side. You had to put it on the curved side. Anyway, those, like I said, those are just inside doors and nothing with a deadbolt. So the deadbolt, it's solid on both sides. It's one bolt. It doesn't have a curve on it. So I can't do a deadbolt, and I wasn't picking the lock at all. I was doing the latch or the bolt. Also, leave a comment on if you've ever seen any of the old-timey keys. I know I used to be Catholic, so there was a law that the church had to have a certain type of key, and they at a certain point they're like, why do we have to have, why is this law here? And it was because they didn't want to have anything better than the poor or people, right? And because the locks were expensive or whatever, in the olden days the poor couldn't afford the better locks of the richer people. So, but at a later time, locks were cheaper and everybody had the better locks. So that the church changed their law and they got the regular locks instead of the old-timey locks. So that's just a little side story, history, whatever. So leave a comment on if you have any experience with locks, if you've seen any old keys. And sometimes people wear those keys and, it's like the lock to my heart, and so the top looks like a heart or whatever. So just leave some comments on keys and locks. Now, seriously about this story, leave a comment on if you would ask the Lion Man to help you unlock cells, especially since you would have to teach a possible enemy a vital skill. Now, right now, if he goes back to King Zagarman, he would be an enemy. If he stays out in the field, they may never see from him or hear from him again. He may just be doing his own thing. So, I guess that's two comments that you need to make. Is that if you were the Lion Man, would you go back? And if you were the allies, would you teach the Lion Man to help you unlock the cells? Especially since he might be an enemy if he had to go unlock the cells. Okay, now, before we get into the next comment, I want to comment on a couple of things. I said Kalaisha built the traps. That has to edit. I think I said she was 10 at the beginning. A 10-year-old would not be doing this by themselves. So, she would have had to help and encourage the soldiers to build the traps and then trap her brothers in it. So that needs to edit. It's a simple edit just to include the soldiers in the building of the traps, and she's more of a encouraging kind of thing. Let's try this one. Let's try this one. And also, we had the vocabulary term of, we just had it on Tuesday. It wasn't coerce. Let's see if I can find the word. Because this is a great example. Cajole, that was the word. Okay, so on Tuesday we talked about cajoling. So, in the story, Kalaisha was like, come on, you can get out. Try to get out. You can't get out. You know, she was cajoling him, basically. And I didn't use cajole in the story, but that was what she was doing to her brothers to encourage them. When they sat down like they weren't going to try, she was cajoling them. But they had instructions from the princess, so they were going to do something else. So they didn't listen to her cajoling. But that is a comment from our vocabulary term on Tuesday. So, now that we talked about that, leave a comment on Kalaisha's brothers getting out of all the traps. Is it just because they're small? Is it because they can get their fingers into little mechanisms that maybe other people can't? Leave a comment on them getting out of all the traps. And leave a comment on if you enjoy learning things. In this episode, Princess Emnorawyn, she's been learning magic. She's been doing this. She's been doing that. But now she goes to the locksmith and she starts learning to do the locks. And at first we were just like, why is she doing this? I mean, some of us probably were. Why is she doing this? And then King Rhymes came to her and he's like, well, why are you doing this? And she starts telling her dad. And then you're like, oh, right. The blue hair, when it went back into the people, it was still in a locked cell and it couldn't get away. So did you have that idea when she was doing it? What that idea, why she was learning that? And do you enjoy learning things? And if you do enjoy learning something, what are you learning right now? And you can put a comment like, I am learning Spanish with Duolingo. I'm learning German with Duolingo. I'm learning how to cook. I'm learning how to cook pastries. You could be more specific. I'm learning how to cook gourmet. I'm learning how to build a wood shelf. I'm learning how, whatever you're learning, put that in the comments as well as if you're enjoying it. Now, join me Tuesday. As writers, before I go into that bit, as writers, we should be learning or experiencing life, because the more things that we have, the more that we can pull from. Join me Tuesday for some jargon and continuing a story with a setting, which I said on Tuesday is one of my favorites. It's my favorite writing prompt at this point. Join me Friday for chapter 34, Princess Emnorawyn Stygerguard. We have 5 more chapters, so 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. So we have 5 more chapters in this story. Leave comments on the order in which your characters would attack the enemy kingdoms. Would they do Zagraman first? Or would they start like over here? Balbatos, Zagraman. Is it Balbatos in this? Yeah. Balbatos, Zagraman, Cronus? Or would they go Cronus, Zagraman, Balbatos? Or would they go Zagraman first because of the Lion Man? And then which one would you do next? Because it's kind of like the Cronus is more west, and then Zagraman is just north. So Cronus is like northwest, and Zagraman is just north, and then Balbatos is northeast. So if you have any idea of which way you would attack these enemies, then let me know. If there is a reason or rhyme to it, direction or distance or whatever, let me know. And leave those comments. And visit. And even if you're not writing my story, and even if my story is finished, doesn't matter. You could tell me your thought process, and that could help you with your story. Maybe you're kind of stuck with your story. Like sometimes we get stuck. And then you're telling me ideas for my story that you would have for my story. And then you can say, oh, you know what? I could use that in my story. So it could help you too if you comment. Visit my website, bymckella.com. Read some character bios. If you read some, leave a comment on which ones you've read. All your comments will help us start conversations, build our community, and make sure to keep all comments respectful. Remember, someone else's perspective can help you with your writing. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and the bell so we can continue to write together. And other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share it with them. This is Mckella with Write with Mckella. Bye for now.